your microphone off. Throughout the presentation, if you have questions, I will have you put them in the chat. And if it's something that we would want the full group to kind of respond or hear out, then I'll call on you individually and ask you to unmute yourself and share out to the team. So just so you're all aware, I'm recording this presentation so that we can share this with our other OCOB students. And so if you would like a copy of this, Mallory and her team will be able to share those out at the end of today. Also, we have Ileana with us today. So we're really excited to have Ileana. I'm gonna let her introduce herself real quick and then we'll get ready to get started.
Hi everyone, I'm Ileana. Like Travis said, I'm going to be joining today and helping out, and I've heard really good things about this workshop, so I'm so excited. But I work as a career peer advisor at the Career Readiness Center, so I am always there for drop-in hours, appointments after this workshop. Definitely a resource that I recommend, especially if you're in the College of Business. Absolutely. But thanks for the intro, Travis.
Thanks, Ileana. So yeah. I'll probably call on Ileana a couple times to share her perspective as just an awesome leader. But like I mentioned, she will be helping monitor the chat. So if you have a question, you can always type that out in the chat and she can respond or indicate and let me know if we should pause and kind of all respond to that question at once. All right. So that's what it's going to look like. For some of you who I haven't had the opportunity to meet, my name is Travis Renaud. I am the career counselor for the Orfalea College of Business. I see some familiar faces and recognize some familiar names. So it's great to connect with you all today. I know many of you probably were expecting Mallory to be here. That was the goal, to co-present with Mallory, but life happens, and Mallory has a little boy, Rory, who is sick, and so she has to take care of him right now. But I think he's on the mend, so we'll make sure to fill Mallory in on everything. And she's missed, but she'll be back in action with us very soon. So it's just gonna be me today. You're gonna be stuck with me, but luckily we got lots of cool information to go over. So I'm gonna start sharing my screen and we're gonna walk through the presentation. Hopefully the goal for this is for you to walk away with a handful of tools so that you feel really confident that over the next couple months into summer, you feel like you have some really tangible steps to feel like you're making forward momentum and continuing forward in career exploration. And for those of you who don't have an internship or are unable to secure an internship, so we want you to have some steps to feel like you're still making progress, all right? So I'm going to start sharing my screen and pull up the presentation. All right, so today's theme is making the most of your summer. Like I said, my name is Travis Renaud, and I am the career counselor for the Orfalea College of Business. The agenda, as I mentioned, is to give you all hopefully at least 5 ways to make the most of your summer. I'm going to share with you some tips from a recruiter. And then we're going to end today with setting some intentions. So hopefully some goals. One of my biggest pet peeves when I attend like a training or a seminar is when someone talks at me for an hour and I walk away with really nothing as a next step. So the goal for today is I'm going to share some resources with you, but I want all of you to customize and create an action step or action steps so that you feel like after today, you can continue to make progress, like I said. So a note before we get started. It's so important to understand that we are in challenging times. There's so much that is unknown. Every day brings new updates and new challenges that we couldn't have anticipated. But what we want you to know is that regardless of where you're at in terms of your career exploration, or regardless of where your plans were for summer, like we feel like there are still a ton of really great things that you can do to add value. So we know some of you had internships that were your dream positions lined up that were, now have been canceled. We know some of you had really exciting plans to travel this summer that now will have to be put on hold. We know some of you are feeling a lot of challenge and a lot of pressure because perhaps financially, this was an opportunity this summer to make some money to help set you up for success in future quarters. So regardless of where you're at, I think it's important to establish like this is really unknown times, and it's okay to feel scared. It's okay to feel sad. It's also okay to feel hopeful. It's okay to feel optimistic. There is no wrong or right way to feel. Just sit in that and know that and I speak for myself and I speak for Mallory, and I think I can also speak for Ileana and the career peers, that we're here to support you all no matter where you're at in terms of that spectrum of emotions, all right? So I wanted to at least start with that foundation. So 5 ways to make the most of your summer. Let's kind of dive into some tangible things. So what those will look like is getting a remote or micro internship, how to use the time between now and fall to better establish and build out your brand, how you can continue to explore some career possibilities, some self-teach opportunities, so some skills that perhaps you've always kept on the back burner as like, hey, I should really spend some time on that, but haven't really found the time. Maybe this summer is a great way to do that. And then perhaps just give back. So some ways that you could really enrich your community or where you're going to be this summer, all right? So those are the 5 areas that we will be talking about. Let's begin with remote internships or micro internships. So you can see on the screen, there's a handful of different ideas of what those can look like. I'm going to start with micro internships, which I think in the name in itself implies what it is, but it's a short-term paid professional assignment that would be similar to those given to a new hire or to an internship. So I'm going to pause here and stop my share screen to give an opportunity real quick to talk about Parker Dewey. So I know some people, perhaps from club meetings you've been attending to or in career counseling meetings, you've heard of Parker Dewey, but Parker Dewey is a really great organization that partners with companies and industries across the board and really serves as a middle person or a conduit. So what that looks like is Parker Dewey will be contacted by an employer, and that employer is seeking a team to complete a project for them. So that could be a 2-week marketing campaign, that could be a 3-week rebrand, that could be a 4-week deep dive into their financials. And so that company is looking for a team to work on that, and they want to outsource it. So Parker Dewey is who's going to create that opportunity. So you apply to be matched to a project that is in aligned with your skill set in your area, and then you take on that internship. It's a paid position. It's typically short term, so like I said, like 2 to 4 weeks, and your employer is Parker Dewey. So even though you're doing a project for, you know, HBO or for Boeing, you're being employed and paid by Parker Dewey. So it's a really, really cool opportunity. I highly encourage you all to start building out a profile and exploring and seeing what options Parker Dewey has for you. That's just the first of many different companies that are beginning to more broadly share about these micro internships. At this time, I'm going to direct you all to a page on Career Services website where you can continue to learn more about these. All right. So I'm going to share my screen here in 1 second and pull up our website. All right. While I'm doing that, does anyone have any questions that they want to type into the chat? Now's a great time to do so. All right. So here's Career Services. This is hopefully many of you are familiar with our website, just careerservices.calpoly.edu. So I want to direct you all to a tab here on the side that says Virtual Workshops and Resources. This is a great place for you to explore a ton of topics that we have pre-recorded workshops on. So if you want to learn more about interviewing or salary negotiation, those are all there. But I'm directing you to the top here where we have a link to who's hiring remote jobs and virtual internship opportunities. This is a great landing page, and I highly recommend you bookmark this. You can see here that this is going to be kind of a starting point for a lot of the resources that Mallory and I built into this this workshop. So here is where you can find a little bit more about those micro internships. Here is a link to Parker Dewey's page. We also have another link to 20 platforms that are regularly updating remote gigs. And so those are typically found through the Remote Work Summit. So these are, again, part-time virtual gigs that are continuing to be added every day. Another thing that you'll see on here is that Career Services is starting to accept more and more internships onto Mustang jobs, and our recommendation and those are virtual, our recommendation is to always type in remote in your search bar, and that will help you identify those companies that are looking for virtual internships. All right, so this is a great landing page. There's tons of good information on here. I highly recommend you bookmark this. All right, so I'm gonna go back to our presentation, and sorry, remove this. All right, so remote jobs, I just kind of referenced these two here. So that's micro internships with Parker Dewey or the Remote Work Summit. I also mentioned Mustang Jobs, which is a great opportunity for you to look for those new remote positions. Also, I know a lot of students have talked about potential like study abroad opportunities that have been canceled. Know that it's still a little unknown what our international opportunities will be, but all students have access to a really great tool called Going Global. The best way to access that is through Mustang Jobs, and when you're, or Handshake, when you're linked into that account, you have access to a tab at the top that says resources, and on that resources page you'll find Going Global. Going Global is a really robust online database full of information about opportunities and trends in the international field. So one area we've been encouraging students is if you have a country in mind that you would hope to study abroad, or if you have a country in mind that you would hope to internationally want to work for, they've completed these country guides, and there is just a data dump of information, all things related to successfully navigating into full-time roles in that country. So if you want to know trends for what they're looking to hire in Brazil, or if you want to know about industries that are booming in Japan, do the research now to do some kind of behind the scenes work, so that as international travel opens up more and these opportunities become more robust, you already know what to expect. So those are called country guides and can be found on Going Global. And then the last area I wanted to highlight is one thing we're hearing more and more is there are still a lot of sectors that are unsure of what the future will look like in terms of employment. But one area that we are feeling confident is still in demand is government, and that's federal and state. So we just had the CIA come virtually onto campus to host info sessions, and they have tons and tons of virtual internships that they're offering right now in industries that, you know, beyond just your classic defense, right? So they're looking for HR individuals, they're looking for an accounting individual. So tons of really great opportunities for business students in an organization like the CIA that you probably never would have considered an internship for. So hopefully what this is highlighting is to really think outside of the box in terms of where you would want to explore different types of internships. All right, so that's the first area, remote or micro internships. Any questions so far? All right, go ahead and type it in if you have, but we'll continue moving forward. So next is, while you're looking for remote internships, you should still absolutely be building out your brand. So as business students, this should not be the first time that you've been introduced to the idea of developing your professional brand. But as a reminder, it is such a huge and important step that you be focusing on while you're in college. So that idea of your brand is this idea of what is it about yourself that's going to set yourself apart? What do you want to be known for? So taking time to get your resume updated and reviewed. I know Ileana and her team of Career Peers have opportunities for all students to come virtually into their Career Readiness Center for resume reviews. Same with my office. I have just completed multiple online resume reviews this morning. So I have these really awesome proactive students who are looking to make sure that they are keeping things updated on their resume so that as opportunities become available, they're ready to get those submitted. So every time you get a set of eyes on your resume, hopefully you're getting feedback. It could just be as simple as tweaking one bullet, adding one accomplishment, but those little areas can make sure that you're feeling confident. And then what's always nice is if you feel really good about your resume, that's usually a good indicator that you're ready to make those changes onto your LinkedIn. So you want to make sure that you're taking your LinkedIn and getting it to the next levels. And I want to highlight a couple of examples of what that next level, I think that can sound kind of vague. So what does it really mean to say next level for your LinkedIn? So I'm going to pull up a couple really strong LinkedIns that will give you an idea. So first, we're going to be looking at, let me pull it up real quick. All right. Go. And can everyone see Lauren Lee Tran on the screen? Give me a thumbs up. Awesome. So here you can see Lauren, a couple different things that stand out. She's, of course, got a nice professional photo. That should be the first indicator that you're ready to be recruited, is you have a photo up there. She's created a background. She's indicating what her incoming position is. And then here you can see a really nice about section. So Lauren's giving me a little bit more a detail of who she is as an individual, right? She's highlighted her strengths. She put her MBTI on there. She's talking about, you know, some of her goals. So I, as a recruiter, could come across Lauren's about section and learn more about her rather than it just saying, you know, third year business administration student studying finance, right? That's just nothing unique. She also has done a really great job of creating built out strong action statement bullets under the different roles that she has and attached multimedia. A huge way for you to gain more traffic to your LinkedIn is by attaching multimedia, whether it's PDFs, PowerPoints, videos to your experiences. So it's a great way to really highlight. And I imagine all of you have really great flyers from events that you've planned or presentations from classes you've developed that really highlight your experience, right? And then another thing I wanted to share is Lauren has created a really awesome personal website, which she has linked to her LinkedIn. This is such a game changer, right? This, to me, like really epitomizes development of a personal and professional brand, right? So here's an opportunity for Lauren to share experiences, really to almost have a continual conversation with her network about what's going on. She can blog, add posts, talk about accomplishments, and really, as someone who is hopefully looking to recruit, I could learn a lot about this applicant before I even interview them. So I would imagine many of you have really cool accomplishments and awesome things that you've already started to develop, but had never thought about creating your own website. I'm definitely not a tech savvy person, but I imagine there's plenty of tools like Wix and others that will help you walk through the process of building out a website. So another great opportunity to use your summer, perhaps that you don't have an internship, to develop a really great brand identifying tool like your own website. All right. Does anyone have questions about LinkedIn or about building your own website? I also want, Ileana, this is now a really great opportunity. If you want to chat, I know that you're also quite the LinkedIn rock star. So is there any other helpful tips you would recommend to your peers about how to maximize LinkedIn?
Yeah, one thing that I recently learned that I was so surprised I've never learned before, but I was talking with Danny, who is a Cal Poly alumni, and he works for LinkedIn now. So he's basically an expert on the tool. And what he told me is that the location that you set on your LinkedIn profile is really important, because if you are searching for a job in San Francisco, like personally, I always search for my internships and full-time jobs in San Francisco. But if I have my location set to San Luis Obispo, it will be harder for recruiters to find me, and less recruiters will reach out to me on LinkedIn because they will assume that I am job searching in San Luis Obispo. So that was a really good tip. I immediately changed my location after hearing that. And another thing that I like to do is just look at other people's LinkedIn profiles, look at other people's bios,
Right.
and see what they're doing, see the kinds of posts they're making. I don't feel like I'm an influencer or anything like that on LinkedIn. There are definitely some Cal Poly students who are always posting really interesting articles, and they get a lot of views. But I think that when I look at the posts that I've made, the ones that get the most views and most likes are ones where I use hashtags and where I tag people and tag companies. So if you want to get it out there more, definitely encourage your friends to comment on your LinkedIn post, and definitely use those hashtags and tag people. And I don't think that, there's any pressure for everyone to be an influencer on LinkedIn at all, but I do think that there are probably some posts that you'll make eventually where you are going to want a lot of people to see that. And so being active on the tool and commenting on other people's posts, liking other people's posts, sharing other people's posts will make it more likely that your posts will be seen when you do decide to make one.
Absolutely. Great point. I want to highlight a little bit of what Ileana shared in terms of the kind of the backside of LinkedIn that I don't think is always talked about, which is the fact that companies across all industries are using LinkedIn and the tool, it's called LinkedIn Recruiting, which is a tool that they pay a lot of money to participate in. And so what that means is they have access to kind of the back end filters. So what that is I, as a recruiter at Workday who am seeking a finance or a marketing student, I'm going to put in a ton of filters. So I'm going to say I want a recent alum or a recent graduate of Cal Poly. I want them to have an Orfala degree. I want them to be seeking a position in the San Diego area, and I want them to have experience with Tableau and Power BI. If you don't have those skills, that location, that major filtered into your degree, or onto your LinkedIn, then you're not going to show up in their search, and then therefore they're not able to, kind of add you to their recruitment pool, or they're not going to be able to reach out to you about open positions. So it's really important that you're really taking a look at all aspects of your profile and filling it with as much robust information as possible so that you're continuing to be found by those recruiters, because it's really all about how they can use the filters to narrow down their search. Okay? So LinkedIn is a really, really great tool that I highly encourage you all to be spending more time on. I think that also highlights the importance of getting 360 feedback. So 360-degree feedback is this idea with both your resume and your LinkedIn of talking to individuals who are, coming into contact with your resume and your LinkedIn. So this could be your roommates and your peers right now. Ask them to review your resume. Ask them to review your LinkedIn. Get feedback. What works, what doesn't work, what's too wordy, what's not explained enough, right? Do a self-assessment. So see what you feel like are the strengths of your LinkedIn and your resume. And after you share what you feel are your strengths of your resume and LinkedIn, try to make sure that that's also echoed by your peers. So if you think that you have a really well-developed personal about me section, but your roommate's like, I don't really get what you're trying to say, then that's the feedback needed for you to understand that you're not getting your point across. So these are really great ideas of how you can continue to develop your brand over the course of your summer. All right, cool. So next is career possibilities through exploration. So all of you business students are very aware of the importance of doing informational interviews, but I can't stress enough how during a time like this it's so helpful to continue to talk to industry professionals, alumni, and individuals who are working within the areas that you're most interested in. So what I mean by that is, if you're real estate finance and you've always been interested in the corporate side of things, but now you want to look more nonprofit, you're going to want to talk to someone who's doing that, who's doing commercial real estate, or you're going to want to talk to someone who's in the medical health profession industry, who's doing kind of large scale hospital development and what that looks like in the real estate field or something like that. So you're going to talk to individuals who are working in that and ask them, what are some skills that I need to be working on? What are some things that I need to be enhancing so that if and when this, the economy really starts to boom, that I'm prepared to enter into that workforce. So informational interviews are super handy. Hopefully all of you are familiar with the LinkedIn alumni search tool. For those of you who are not, it's a really easy function of LinkedIn. It's a great way for you to click into the alumni tool, and by using filters, find alumni who are working in companies, in locations, or for a job field that you're most interested in. If it's helpful, I can navigate to LinkedIn real quick and show you, for those of you who haven't seen that, what that can look like. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. This is also a really great opportunity to ask some questions. We've kind of covered a lot so far. So if any of you have questions, now's the time to ask those. All right, looks like we're doing good. All right. So here we are back at LinkedIn. I feel like the easiest way to get to the alumni tool is through your profile. So when you're on your profile, you're going to click on your education. That's why it's so important that you have your degree typed out correctly. It's going to link you to the Cal Poly Hub. I know this is a review for many of you, but once you're there, it's going to take you to this page. And if you scroll to the alumni section off here to the side, you'll see this is where you can get to it. We have currently over 145,000 alums who are on the platform. That's a way too many overwhelming amount to try to go through. So you're going to want to make sure that you're using these filters here. Where do they live? Where do they work? What do they do? What do they study? If you don't want to use those filters, you can also use the search bar to just search by a specific company. So like I said, if there's someone working at Adobe who's doing content marketing, now's a really great time to reach out to those people and conduct an informational interview. Looks like we have a question in the chat. If you're looking for something remote, what should we set our location on for LinkedIn? That's a really great question, Caitlin. So in your on your location section, or on your dashboard, excuse me, on LinkedIn, you have the opportunity to add multiple locations. So you should have the desired location for where you would want that internship to be if it was physical. So say you would hope to be working on site in San Diego or Los Angeles or San Francisco, you can have that, but you can also indicate multiple locations. So if you are interested in companies on the East Coast, go ahead and put, you can, I think, have up to 5 locations on there. But remote wise, it shouldn't necessarily matter because those companies would not be using the location filter to post their positions. Good question. All right, so that was a real quick overview of how to find the alumni tool on LinkedIn. I also want to real quick highlight another real quick tool for doing additional informational interviews that can be found on our website, which is careerservices.calpoly.edu. For current students, you have access to this through your portal, but you can also access it through the student resource page, where you can, I hope many of you have heard of Cal Poly Career Connections. A real quick overview of Cal Poly Career Connections is, this is an awesome networking tool, but it is just for Cal Poly alumni and current students. So it's not as robust as LinkedIn, because of course LinkedIn is a national, global networking tool, but Cal Poly Career Connections is a little bit more targeted, or is definitely just targeted to Cal Poly students. But what we found is great about Cal Poly Career Connections is these are people, alums, who have actively signed up to participate in mentorship to students. So we see that the level of engagement is a little higher than sometimes those of people that you connect with on LinkedIn. So this is another opportunity to reach out to individuals. You can use the Explore Community tab to find people who work in an industry or have a background that matches your area of interest. So quick review, that is Cal Poly Career Connections, and also LinkedIn to do those informational interviews. Any questions about either of those tools? I appreciate your question, Caitlin.
Travis, I just want to jump in and reiterate that Cal Poly Career Connections has been a really helpful tool for me. And I found that when I've reached out to people on LinkedIn, they will respond, but it'll take them maybe like a few days or a week. And it often feels like I'm asking something larger on LinkedIn versus on Cal Poly Career Connections when I've connected with people. I mean, they've gone out of their way to make a profile. So that means they really do want to help students. And I've even had my mentor through that platform reach out to me more than I've probably reached out to her. And she's really awesome. She works in sales at Adobe and has just been a really good source of like feedback on my resume and given me really great tips for networking. So if you haven't made a profile on that, you probably should.
Yeah, totally. I agree. And what's really nice about Cal Poly Career Connections is if you feel like you've already developed and spent a ton of time on your LinkedIn, it's kind of be frustrating when you're like, wait, I need to create another profile. But what's really great about Cal Poly Career Connections is you can just like move all your information from LinkedIn onto to that profile. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. They can kind of like sync over. So that's helpful. Thank you, Ileana, for sharing your perspective on that. So another thing to talk about, so just as a kind of a refresher, all these career exploration tools like alumni interviews and researching on companies that are done through LinkedIn is a very like there's really countless rabbit holes you could go down through that like that context. So I think it's really important to set yourself like goals. So what I mean by that is if you want to do some informational interviews or you want to connect with alumni, maybe set a goal of reaching out to 3 alums on Cal Poly Career Connections in the month of July, or trying to set up virtual coffee chats with 5 different leaders within your concentration, maybe they're juniors or seniors who have done really cool internships and you found them through LinkedIn. So setting that goal will make it feel like you're making progress rather than just this arbitrary, like, yeah, I'm going to try to network this summer, right? Virtual and online learning is another tool that you can really use summer for. I highlighted just five or six little tools here. Tableau is a really great data visualization tool that hopefully some of you are familiar with. Microsoft has their version of Power BI. Both of these tools you can take online classes through and get certifications in. I've heard from many employers, especially through information systems and marketing recruitment, that they are looking for students to be using this time to better develop their technical skills. So what that means is when I meet with an IS or finance or any student for that matter, a quant student who says, yeah, I took a really great class in Python, but I probably only know the basics. That's okay. That's, understandable. It was only a 10-week class, but now you have 3 months over summer to really sit down and feel like you can become highly proficient in that skill. So there really shouldn't be any excuse that if you feel like that R is an essential part of the jobs that you're going to want to apply for, now's the time to really learn those skills. If you feel like, hey, I'm a marketing student, but I've historically not been able to compete with our GRC students who can do both the creative side of marketing and the business side of it, okay, we'll use this summer to get more training in Illustrator and InDesign. If you feel like you want to learn creative ways to maximize social media, because that's the way we're connecting with individuals now, take a class through Coursera that gives you cool creative ways to use social media marketing. So these are just a couple tools, but we found that the number one piece of feedback we feel from students is they just don't feel like they walk away with enough technical skills sometimes from their courses, and now's really an opportunity to better develop those. I also feel like I want to highlight virtual learning and online learning doesn't have to just be those technical skills. Some people don't feel like they need any more level of Excel experience. They feel proficient in that. That's okay. There's still really cool virtual things that you can enhance. And so I highlighted just 3 things here: online classes, podcasts, and books. Why this is because time and time again, when I'm talking to recruiters, the number one thing that they're saying is, when I'm ready to recruit students come fall or come late summer or whenever it is, the first thing I'm going to ask them is, what did you do when the whole world shut down? What did you do to stay connected? And if your response is that you read a life-changing book like The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and explaining to that recruiter why it's changed your perspective, what a great way to connect. If you have an awesome podcast that's changing the way that you're finding trends in fintech, what a great way to connect with that recruiter. If you take time out of your summer to take a really cool online class, like Yale, who's offering for the first time their highly popular Science of Wellbeing class virtually for free, what a great conversation starter. So these are things that could be fun, right? Maybe you're on a jog and you're listening to a podcast. Maybe you're spending just a couple hours a week taking an online class through Harvard. What a really cool conversation starter. So these are things that don't have to be, sit in front of a computer for 40 hours. Is there other suggestions that any of you have heard of, and that would be a really great way to share with your peers? Thanks, Ileana. Yeah, I agree. There's so many cool classes out there. So one of the last things I want to talk about is just giving back. So hopefully we want to see more and more areas slowly start to open up in our communities. And hopefully what that looks like is opportunities for you to start giving back. So there are opportunities through Idealist. Idealist is a really, really awesome platform for those individuals who are interested in working more in a nonprofit arena. It's also a great job and internship posting board for individuals who are focused on areas like B Corp or companies with a cause. It's also typically a lot of opportunities for areas of social justice awareness and that kind of stuff. So cool, really cool positions on Idealist, and they have a really great volunteer match program. Simple things like just calling to support your local food bank, right? Looking up organizations in your community that are helping communities that are impacted heavily by COVID-19. Maybe it's being that person that drops off meals for individuals in your community that are unable to attend, visit a grocery store. Here's the thing. You may be asking yourself, why the heck would me spending 8 hours a week for a couple of weeks delivering meals to some of our, senior living facilities? Why is that going to help me find a finance degree? Why that's going to help you, or why that's going to help you find a finance position is, no, it's not going to enhance your understanding of the market necessarily. But when you're in an interview and they ask you a question about, what did you do during your summer to make an impact, or what did you do when you lost your internship, you can share a really awesome personal story about how you gave back to your community. And I can tell you that's going to make a huge impression to the recruiter, because it shows not only initiative, but it shows that ability to go above and beyond to support others, which we need in every work environment. So really thinking about how you can give back. I also encourage you to think about how you can give back, not just to your community of your home, but your Cal Poly community. So if you're a graduating senior or a leader in your last couple of years, this is a great way to reach out to your first and second years, asking them what support they need. I know we've seen a trend from some of our leaders, whether it be through LinkedIn or through their clubs, reaching out to new members to ask about how they can best mentor them. If you have advice, use your advice, use your voice to really support your fellow Mustang. So thinking your community doesn't just have to be those individuals in the town you live in, it can be for sure the Mustang community as well. I want to spend some time talking about, you've heard me allude to conversations with recruiters, and this is just one specific example. So Mallory had the opportunity to connect with Stephanie McDonald, who's one of our senior recruiters at Stryker, and they had a really robust conversation. And what we both felt like was a really handy and helpful tool that Stephanie had shared was this idea of how students can respond to adversity is so important. So what I mean by that is what I referred to a couple of minutes ago, that question of, when the whole world shut down or when you lost your internship, what did you do to make an impact? What did you do to feel engaged? So what Stephanie's highlighting here is, it's okay if you didn't have that internship that you had hoped for. Many people lost those experiences, but employers are going to be much more impressed by the students who come back with an answer that highlights all the creative ways that they stayed engaged. So if you're the student who did multiple informational interviews, volunteered in your community, listened in to an online class that talked about resiliency, wrote a blog post on LinkedIn that was shared by your peers about, leadership development through adversity. Like, those are really cool ways to show that you could successfully respond through adversity. So I think Stephanie highlights what a lot of recruiters are sharing with us. A really quick one to answer Grant's question. Grant asked out to the group, is there going to be a possible way to get these slide deck emailed out to participants? Yes, you will have an opportunity. Mallory and her team will be able to share both a recording of this video and the slides with anyone who registered for the event. Thanks, Grant. Real quick, adding a canceled internship to your resume. We've heard from some students individually asking for feedback on whether or not they should do so. And we've moved forward with confidence stating that yes, you should be indicating on your resume that you did have an internship that was canceled. So you can see at the top of the screen, how you choose to format it is up to you. Typically, it's just the name of the company that you indicate that your internship was accepted, and then it was rescinded due to COVID-19. You can include sub-bullets. So maybe you have a bullet talking about what you were intending to focus your project on for that summer, or what the intended goal of that internship was. That's a great addition, but it's not needed. But I think these 7 or 8 bullets really highlight the why behind why we're recommending that. It shows that a student had the initiative to seek out an internship. Landing an internship is part of the learning experience. So knowing how to deal with the job loss and uncertainty of the future is always a beneficial talking point. It gives an opportunity for that recruiter to understand the gap of internship experience, so they know why you didn't work over that summer. It also, perhaps the title of that internship indicates to the employer what your career focus is. So maybe you had a UI UX internship with Adobe. It's helpful for them to know that you're someone who's really interested in that area. So those are just a couple handy tips that can highlight why adding a canceled internship to your resume can be helpful. All right. So you guys, I've talked at you for long enough. That was a lot of information. I want to spend these last 5 to 10 minutes with an opportunity for you all to really set your intention. So I'll come back to that slide. I really quick want to highlight, just so you see this here, when we share out this presentation, know that you have the contact information of both Mallory and myself. These are our roles and our emails and all that good stuff. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. Know that this slide is attached when you get that presentation. But a real quick want to slide back to this. So what we're going to do now in these last 5 to 10 minutes is I'm going to break up everybody into some breakout rooms. So hopefully this is an opportunity to really leave today with, like what I mentioned a couple times, which is some action steps. So I do recommend, please unmute your camera and your microphone if you can, so that when you're in your breakout room, you can really connect with individuals. But this is my challenge. This is my my challenge to you all is please, please, please work with your small group to identify 3 action steps you can make over the next 3 months so that you feel like you can hold yourself accountable to steps. So if that's, expand your network, that's not really a smart goal. Like, how can you really expand your network if you're not creating some specific, measurable, attainable? So maybe expand your network is connect with at least 5 alums over the next 3 months and conduct at least 2 informational interviews in that time. So really try to drill down to something specific. Ileana and I will try to pop into some of those rooms. So please continue to engage. I will close out those rooms a couple of minutes before the end of the hour so that we can share out. All right, so I'm gonna open those rooms up and have you all chat.
Travis, is Mallory still planning to send a recording of this to all participants?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Okay, nice.
Totally, let's do. How's life?
It's going good. Yeah,
Good.
it's going good. I loved the shout out of the Yale's happiness class.
Totally. Yeah. That was so much information. I don't know. That was a lot. But
I know,
hopefully,
I think it's hard when too, like there's only like one person. Like
yeah.
when I'm like leading an entire lecture, I'm like, I feel like it's helpful to hear breaks. So that was why I was like, maybe I can just like jump in a little
Yeah,
bit and
please. Yeah.
save you some time to like
Uh,
take a sip of water and just
like
breathe.
so much of me talking at them. I hate because it's like I don't know if they're even listening, but it's all good. All right. Do you wanna I'm gonna move you into breakout room 4 because there's only 2 people in there. It looks like a lot of people have left, which is totally fine.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm time up. So if you want to just check in with them and see how they're doing.
Okay.
Cool.
I also was hoping to plug our office as a resource and our upcoming event next week at the end, if that's possible. Do you want, oh, oops.
All right, team. So we're slowly coming back into the main session. I appreciate all of those of you who participated and chatted in your small groups. We are running out of time, so I want to give an opportunity for Ileana. Put it in the chat, but there's a really cool opportunity next week that we want to share out with everyone so that they know about that, and then give an opportunity for anyone who has questions to ask those questions. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So next Friday, my office is putting on a workshop called How to Thrive in Your Virtual Internship. And I, for one, I don't have a virtual internship coming up, but I'm still going to attend this because there are going to be some really great panelists, and they're going to give you tips on basically how to thrive in a virtual environment. Like, how do you network virtually if you have an internship or in general? And how do you make sure that you're maximizing your productivity if you're working from home? How do you make yourself stand out in a remote internship, even if you don't have that face-to-face interaction? So if any of you know Miriam Abdo, she's going to be one of our panelists, and she has an internship at Amazon Web Services based in Seattle this summer. And then we're also going to have Sammy Von Gober, who has been working remotely for Goldman Sachs recently. And we're going to hopefully have a recruiter, but that hasn't been announced yet. So I put the link to sign up in the chat, but I would recommend that even if you don't necessarily have an internship lined up yet, they're going to be sharing some really helpful tips. But that's all.
That's awesome. Thanks, Ileana. Does anyone in our last couple of minutes want to share one goal that they made in their group, or one goal that they've identified so that they can feel confident moving into summer that they have some action steps? Who wants to share? One person. Be brave.
I got you, Travis.
Thanks, Grant. Go for
All right,
it.
so probably just maybe try to build out a website. Be able to kind of, use more of a visual storytelling aspect, so people can kind of understand either the story or kind of, the values or the goal and where I want to be in the future.
Love it. I love that you said visual storytelling. I love that. What a great way. I mean, now more than ever, it's going to be so hard to connect with individuals in person. So having that additional tool to tell your story in a creative way, perfect. Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Grant. All right, team. That was a lot of information to share, to throw out at you. I understand it's not easy when there's a lot of different directions your summer could go, right? So everyone here could do really awesome and creative things, and we don't even know that those things even exist yet, right? Maybe that opportunity won't come across your path for another 3 weeks. So it's hard. The unknown is hard. I understand that completely. But I think these are the things that are known. One, Mallory and I are here to support you in any aspect of the career and major exploration. So we're here where I work all summer. I don't go anywhere. This isn't my internship, it's my job. So we're continuing to be able to support you in all things that. Ileana and her team are here, the career peers are here for the remainder of the school year to support you all. Alicia is here with us. I see Alicia is one of our OCOB academic advisors. Her team is here to support you. So that's a known thing. We are here to support you in your career and academic success. And outside of that, hopefully today you walked out with some really great steps to take moving on from now until summer. And hopefully this is a preview. Mallory and I are going to follow up months and months from now to talk about, to host another presentation to talk about now how to prepare for recruitment for fall. So we're here at the beginning of summer, and we'll welcome you all back at the beginning of fall to continue this conversation, all right? So I'll hang out for a couple of minutes. I know you all have things to get to. If you registered for this event, Ileana and Mallory and the team will be sending out this slide deck and also a recording of this. If you really want to listen to me talk all at you for another hour, all right? So good luck, stay safe. I'll hang out and answer some questions if you have any. Thanks, everybody.